to a convention, video game rooms, right? Help
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah,
hell,
for
you're
sure.
from Michigan, UMACon. We did UMACon, Roll
I'm
9
from
Gaming.
Indy.
Oh, okay. We
Gen
did
Con.
ASEN as well. We did ASEN. We did ASEN.
Okay.
We did ASEN. We did UMACon. We've done Anime Milwaukee. All the like
Sure.
rando Wisconsin ones.
Yeah, I've been to UMACon,
Okay.
so
Okay.
familiar.
Yeah. So we helped run a lot of that stuff. I don't work for the company anymore, but that company did do the retro game room at Gen Con this like 2 or 3 years ago.
Awesome.
So like we used to do that. We used to on purpose stash the sweaty Smash Brothers as far away from the rest of the video game consoles as we possibly could. So one year at it was Summer Games Done Quick. The first year they moved up to St. Paul / Minneapolis. They had a literal basement, like separated off of the wing from the main floor.
It's where where we belong.
Like we just
to be honest,
and it's because like it's a speedrunning event. It's not like really a convention. It's not really a thing. And so like the VGR room was just there for people practicing their speedruns to go to it. But you couldn't set up a video game room physically anywhere without setting up Smash somewhere. And so we literally stashed the Smash Bros in the basement, and you could
it's where we belong.
And you could smell it every time. You just
shout out to Marthmain, Redskin Marthmain. Absolutely the worst video game community I've ever been a part of. I wish them nothing but ill.
Unbelievable!
But yes, I grinded Smash, unfortunately, for a couple years.
Amazing. And I see Chat Gang's already showing out. SJ dropping a $5 on the chat there, so enjoy those gift subs. Kicker with a tier 1 sub for 20 years and an 18-year streak. That streak is old enough to buy smokes, though maybe not for long. Thank you so much for that, Kicker. Chat Gang, what is up? I'm, of course, the magical Mr. Mephisto, the most dangerous man in Age of Sigmar. Welcome to the Great Enhancening, Part 2. I think that means 2. I'm not certain. I am joined tonight by the most handsomest man in Age of Sigmar, Joops. He is a Soulblight Gravelords enthusiast, a writer, a former Warmahordes grinder, and a recovering Smash Bro. How's it going, Joops?
I'm the cleanest Smash brother.
There it is. And we will be enhancening Soulblight Gravelords tonight. Now, it feels weird to want to enhancenate Soulblight Gravelords because their Battletome is like pretty much one of the
shit.
Yeah, it's the shit. It's one of the newer ones, and I rate it very highly. Since IJ just got their new book, and I have my gripes with that, and by IJ I'm calling it IJ, and it's supposed to be Auric War Clans. So I think that says everything you need to know about that. I have my gripes with that book. Since their old book now is no longer, I'm going to say that the Soulblight Gravelords book is the best book currently in Age of Sigmar. I know, bold statement. So, but we're enhancenating it. Anyway.
A hard task to make the best book even more the best.
That's right.
Well, they did get rid of Flying Blood Knights, which I'll go into that, I'm sure.
Hobby Bear. Whoa, I have at least 90 minutes until bedtime. So speaking of Lord of Death showing up in the chat, which the pressure's really on now. You know, you got Brendan, the Lord of Death. He's won Best Death at Adepticon. He's swept various tournaments across the Midwest. Like, that's some pressure. We have some pressure to impress. It was already going to be hard enough following up basically the perfect episode with SJ Arcade and the Doc King fixing Current Artefacts. Like, when SJ dropped that like shout artifact, he had won the game of the Great Enhancening.
Yeah, I lost my mind. I'm changed.
Forever.
It awoken something in me.
Yeah. Would you say that your life is enhanced now?
That's a good word for it. Let me look to camera.
Yeah. Yeah, stare at, break the fourth wall real quick. I love the cameras in front of me, but whenever I do like gags where I'm breaking the fourth wall, I always look off to my right where there is decidedly no camera. Um, the artifact, that's right. So basically, what I'm saying is that we're in bonus levels right now. We are running victory laps. Offline, I believe you called it New Game Plus. This is just
New Game Plus.
New Game Plus. So to start out tonight, uh, I want to do a little bit of like actually maybe introduce yourself. I kind of gave the pitch real quick, but Chat Gang, many of y'all know him already from Heywo. Just like a real quick spiel, like why AOS,
Yeah,
where you come from, so on and so forth.
I got into mini wargaming because I had moved to a new city, Ann Arbor, Michigan. Um, and there was a really cool shop that had a bunch of Warhammer, a bunch of 40K, but the game at the time was Warmahordes. They had a huge community, really great, positive people. Somebody showed me the ropes. I bought up my first army and realized, like, oh, this has kind of like the elements of card games that I like, the elements of tabletop that I found interesting. And I was like, I like this. And I did the thing that I do when I like something, which is I get obsessed with it and want to be the best at it. So I went to every tournament.
Spike
I did,
mentality.
yeah, I did pretty well. And then the privateer press, the press ganger system broke up, and the meta dried up. I kind of lost interest. I was an artist as well as a writer growing up, so the painting aspect kind of stuck with me. And a buddy of mine was like, "Hey, I play Age of Sigmar. It's like fantasy, but not." And
Good pitch. Good
I had
pitch.
known about fantasy because I had bought some of the models. I never played really. I just was like, these are cool. Like I like these. I want to play with these cool toys. Um, so he got me into Age of Sigmar. I cycled through a couple armies initially. I picked up Skaven first. Kind of didn't like the inconsistency. I loved the flavor behind it, but I'm too much of a spike sometimes because I want my shit to work when I want it to work, and I want it to work well.
Hmm.
Um, so I kind of switched off that. I dipped my toe in a couple different armies and ended up landing on Legions of Nagash, which wasn't doing super hot, but
That would have been
Vampire
after.
Counts.
It was a GHB 2018-ish. We got like a. We were doing pretty. It was no. We were good 2018. It was like the 2019. We got like a big.
That's when I got into it.
Yeah, we got a big pimp
Um,
slap. So we were like, the over nerf happened. Yeah, yeah. Go on.
so
Yeah.
I got into that, and I was like, I knew enough about fantasy just through browsing 1D4chan. Um, and I was like, vampire counts are sick. I like vampires. I'm still a goth kid, obviously.
You never stop being a goth kid, right? Like you
I
stay
never
goth at
grew out
heart.
of it.
Yeah. The Bella Lugosi
Um,
shirt, by the way, is chef's kiss. Like
and I
absolutely
was like,
fantastic.
cool. My play group is KO, Zinch, Daughters of Cain, Idneth Deepkin, and then a guy who rotates Iron Jaws, Slaves to Darkness. So I got shit hammered for the first. I didn't win for a year, which we've already talked. I've made it aware that I'm competitive. Um, Imagine my delight when the Soulblight book comes out and vampires are good now, and then I can turn around and smash my friends who had been crushing me
Yeah.
for so long. And it's fun. I mean, we all know the deal. There's no, you know, it's not toxic win at all cost. It's fun win at all cost. We play fair. We use the rules, but we're out for blood when we show up to our game days.
That's fantastic.
And that's what I like. I like you can have both the art and the try-heartedness, I guess. Um,
See, I don't think that trying to play hard or play strong or do a good game. I don't think any of that stuff's mutually exclusive. Like
I don't either.
I try to engage people like kind of at their level a little bit. That's where you go like, what kind of game are you going to play? But my best games are usually those like chess battles where we're fucking around too. You know, like we're both playing like just making like great moves, looking at the table, like you know when you're in the zone because like the boards start to kind of like swirl around each other because you start posturing and like that like
sure.
motion starts to happen around certain like objectives, and I'm like, wow, this is like a fucking great game. Like that, I actually like those are my favorite games. It's not just like, hey bro, like you know, like it's the you're playing the chess battle, but then you've got like some friendly banter going on. Like that's like I don't think that stuff's mutually exclusive. Like the one of the earliest things I used to really like go to task on was this notion that competitive players are inherently whack, or that whack is inherently bad, like or like all that like misnomers about like, you know, what it means to be a great player. It doesn't mean the nickel dime. I think that competitive players have the most stakes for the rules to be the most balanced and the most fair for all. Like competitive players hate gotchas probably more than casuals, quite frankly.
100%. I want everybody to have. I mean, it's what attracted me to Smash and Halo before that. Like, I like when two opponents have the same pieces. It's also why I'm a huge chess fan. I want things to be, you know, I like Warhammer because all the armies are distinct and you've got all this crazy shit going on.
Right.
But my perfect, like the thing that really like gets me going is equally matched opponents seeing who's best on an equal playing field.
Yeah, and you leave it on the table, right? Like you leave it on the table. Like if someone like when, and I think there's a humility that comes in like a true competitive spirit. I think like true competitors have a humility that the casual may not have, or the person who picks up like the OP army, they're not really interested in playing the game, they just want to win. Like that's different from like the competitive spirit, right?
For sure.
The competitive spirit is Bill Sousa taking Flesh Eater Courts someplace they have no business winning, and just like continuing to like just show up and show out with them. How did Slaanesh? What was it? That wasn't Slaanesh. What was that army that was just like
Bill Sousa is the reason why I bought a black coach.
And that's right, Nighthaunt. Nighthaunt with like 60 hex rates.
Because the Nighthaunt models are beautiful. And I was like, I never see Nighthaunt in tournaments. Why? Looking through tournament lists, like this is a bummer. And then I see Bill Sousa with like 4 black coaches, and I'm like, oh, that's fucking rad. Like, I mean, granted, he crushes tournaments, and I'm in Age of Sigmar at least, I'm nobody. But I mean, like that.
Apart from the handsomest man in AOS.
Well,
apart from that, yeah. See, the pressure is triple on because the freaking former Team America captain is in chat too. So we really got to impress. Yeah.
So I can really show my ass.
Yeah, there you go. I love a vampire who can kick my ass. See, the show within the show never gets old. Like talking about golf ladies, and a little bit before that, Scorn, which I suppose are Skaven Khorne, which is the army we really need.
I mean, we have Laukavai, so we already won. Move over Marathi. You're no longer the hottest mom in Age of Sigmar.
Based. True story. Yeah.
We have the hottest mom. We have the most fun book. I'm surprised why everyone isn't playing Soulblight.
I love the shade.
I love this faction. I've been bothering SJ. I've been talking to him about, and CJ a bit, about starting up another army, but like it's so hard because I go back to my book and I'm like, well, like I already have cool shit. Like why should I spend a ton of money on other shit when I already have all the cool shit?
I mean, I think that's a really good segue into sort of my like state of the Soulblight. Like, where is Soulblight right now? You know, in the meta, I think I haven't looked at the numbers for like at least a couple of weeks now.
I keep my eye on them.
Yeah. So, but before I get to that, someone mentioned Catacross. The only thing they're missing is like the hottest dad, and that is by far and away Catacross.
Well, I mean, we have the hottest mom and the hottest dad, so...
Well, death in general, yes.
Yeah, death.
Yeah. Like, we're just... hottest dad in AOS, correct, yes. Catacross, the codpiece alone gets its own separate category for Majesty, and then Catacross, the total package. Total package, look at the camera again. It takes talent to look this hot.
Look stage left.
But yeah, so state of the meta. Like SBG is pretty healthy. I don't think we're one of the Sinister Six as Vince calls it, but like
We're good.
but they're good. And one of the things you were kind of talking about there is like the temptation to go and play a different army, because it is my position that Age of Sigmar players will continue to buy Age of Sigmar product. Once they got you, Games Workshop knows this too, by the way.
Wait, the hooks are in.
Yeah. Once they have you, they'll continue to let you're just going to keep buying stuff, and so that urge to like buy that second army is always there, or pick up that second game like a Blood Bowl or whatever it is. But with Soulblight as a Battletome, like I find that my second army is like waiting for me in there, like where I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't run like the all Blood Knights army yet, and just
right.
So where does that sit for you, and kind of maybe the meta, if you have some particulars you'd like to say about where you think Soulblight is right now?
I haven't gotten to attend any huge tournaments other than some locals, which I've done pretty well at. I see them in the 4-1 a lot. See an occasional 5-0. It's exactly where I want them to be. I don't want them to be in that top 6, because those are the people who are looking nervously every time a points update, every time a rules update. The sweat, just the sweat. They're good. They're not oppressive. I've yet to play against somebody who's been like, this is oppressive and I didn't have a good time. And there's so much variety. I can run Nagash, a White King, and 20 Blood Knights. I can run Manfred and a bunch of Graveguard. I can run Vyrkos. I can run a bunch of Direwolves. I can run a monster mash of like all this different stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I've been wanting to get into a second army because like I had a bunch of Nagash stuff, so most of it's already painted other than like the new hotness. I've been wanting to pick up 40k, and I just like, I have so much fun just playing with my vampires that like it's hard to like divorce myself from it long enough to put effort into doing anything else.
The book is too good. It's okay. Like a GHB will come out, and then you'll have a proper excuse. But right now, state of the meta. I mean, it's such a healthy army. Mr. Reliable. We had a guy at the Renegade team event who ran full 1K Direwolves list. Yes, not great, but hot. And that's the thing, is like you were talking about competitive balance earlier, and I do think, and I agree with some of chat here, that this book is just healthy. It's not oppressive, like you said. Like, people tend not to walk away from the game going, that was bullshit. Like, right. that like knee jerk reaction. There's some stuff that like goes up to the line. There's always going to be certain specific things about AOS that's like game wide that people don't like,
For sure.
But overall, like it's not like exploiting some mechanic that people already hate to like make it worse for you. They by and large play fair. People finally figured out how to play around our grave sites. It took them a full 3 editions to figure it out. But now that water level has raised on the like we said it would, way back in first edition, every death player was like, just get good. And they're like, he just told me to get good, and they'd flip the table, and like that's not constructive. But now that people have gotten good, because the longer a game goes around, the more people consume great shows like mine and Haywo, the better they get at playing the game. Cubic Shenanigans is a great teaching show. The more that water level raises, the less, feels bad exist in like some weird mechanics, right?
For sure.
But yeah, like good variety. I think the weakest is Avengorii, the monster mashiest one. But
not after tonight.
But not after tonight. And but you can still run like a 2 dragon list that is very competitive.
And
right?
it's fun.
Yeah. And if you wanted to run 2 dragons, like a pack of like 5 Blood Knights and a bunch of Zomblors, like that's a list. You can do some work with that. What I always want from an army is an army that always gives me a chance to compete. Not just play, compete. That I know that if I am if I build a good list, give myself a pet unit or like a theme build that I'm aiming toward, right? Like I want to take a Neapolitan list in this army. You can.
Sure.
There's a role for skeletons. There's a role for wolves. There's a role for like all of our battle line options. Pretty much have their time and place, and if you know how to use them well, you're gonna do well with them.
Right.
I mean, it's the dream. There
And
are a
I
couple
actually,
outliers, but there always will be. Go ahead.
sorry, the list that I play, I keep track of the tournaments, like Austin especially. Um, my main list is Manfred, Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, 10 Direwolves, 210 Skeletons, 220 Blood Knights with the Great Blades. And lo and behold, I hop on the Austin results and I see somebody, probably 1,000 times more skilled than myself running the exact same list. I looked at a couple other tournaments from like Scotland, other people running that exact same list. So I had a pat myself on the back moment of, oh, maybe I'm onto something here. But I love that you can play any way you like, any way you want. I also have a Nagash 20 Blood Knights list. Like it's being spoiled, pure and simple. Like just spoiled for options.
Sorry, Chad is accusing you of NPE toxic handsomeness
Oh
right now.
no. That's such a bummer. Well, you can go to my Twitch channel and see me get my ass handed to me by Corn Player Extraordinaire SJ Arcade and see probably the worst rolls you will ever see in an Age of Sigmar game. Um,
Yeah.
but no, SJ is a beautiful opponent and just a genuinely great.
Real quick, what was your Twitch handle? Just
It is my
for if
my
people
Twitch
want to go to
handle.
Twitch, yeah, to see you get beat, to see this beautiful face in
There you
shame.
go.
Yeah, there it is. So Twitch TV/ it's me Joops. I'll have a link in the down there part for anyone who's checking the VOD later. Um, and to Tristan's point here, has a positive win rate against the mid tier and bottom tier armies at
Mhm.
uh, and then at 41% against the top tier Sinister Six. That's because the Sinister Six, a lot of it is shooting, and
Yeah.
shooting is our Achilles heel.
Yeah.
If shooting gets dealt with because everyone's complaining about that right now, then that's going to go up for our army. Again, it's healthy. The problem
Yeah.
for us is the problem for everybody. You don't want it to be like our gatekeeper gets out the way and we fucking steamroll everybody. That would
Yeah.
mean our book isn't healthy right now.
My main opponent is KO. So trust me, I hear you, people who get frustrated sometimes with shooting. It it is what it is. You gotta adapt.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I think playing to your outs, like learning your outs, playing to your
Mhm.
outs. This is something I question that popped into my mind as you were talking earlier about LON, and just kind of getting stomped. Learning to play to your outs is a not just necessary. It is a necessary. It is essential that
Right.
it's not just something we say. It's something that you absolutely must do. Learn your bad matchups, play them, and understand what your outs are in bad matchups, so that
Hmm.
like at least at the mercy of a die roll and you're playing to one of your outs, you can take over, right?
And it'll make you a better player.
Right. And that's where playing from the back foot with LON. Do you think like getting just like hammered on by LON or when you were playing LON in their sort of like falling out phase, do you think that helped you get better? Was it stagnant? Did it do
Oh
nothing?
yeah.
Like what okay.
Oh yeah. It helped me learn valuable lessons about positioning. It helped me learn valuable lessons about order of activation. It very much reinforced the fundamentals because I didn't have much else to go off of if I wanted to get close. I had to play picture perfect games against people with not just strong armies, because a strong army does not a tournament winner make.
Hmm.
Strong armies and very bright people piloting them.
Hmm.
I am hesitant to ever say, oh well, he just won that tournament because Gargants are OP. He won that tournament because Doc is OP. That that tournament winning Doc player would go up against the same list and shred somebody
Hmm.
because they have the fundamentals
Right.
locked down and they know they have the reps in to know what to do. So playing LON got me those reps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Plus you end up like what you're talking about, like the OP list or the OP army. They end up
Right.
against the other OP list, OP armies, and the pilot skill is really what comes through. And we're
Yeah.
seeing that more this edition than ever before. There's just a lot more decision points in the game now, and decisions is where you see good players come out.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's
100%.
anytime you have an opportunity to make a decision, you have the opportunity to make the wrong decision, and there like you just and I think that's why you're seeing like the real skill of the players like really start to I've always held the line that player skill mattered a lot, was weighted a lot more than like some of our earlier consensus might have been. I've always held that line, but now I've been proven ultimately correct in the dialectical sense that I always was. So you're welcome, everyone. Lord Whale with the tier 1 sub for 5 years. Thank you so much for that. And please stop starting that cult. I already have enough cult of personality. I don't need a literal cult. So yeah, any closing thoughts on state of the meta for SBG?
I think it's good. Like I'm happy. I'm happy with it. I like knowing that, I can, and not easily, but there's a good chance of going 3-2 if I really like mind my P's and Q's for 1, or if I'm really like on my shit 5-0.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, if I'm going to huge ITC, that's probably not going to happen. But there's a chance, which is what I like.
Right, and that's the thing is like I believe Team America player Sean's got a pretty good quote. He's been on the Rantathon a couple times now on the Doctor's block. He says that like sort of like being good will get you 3 and 2. How does it go? I'm gonna mix up the order, but I think people understand the gist I'm getting at or the paraphrase I'm going at. He's like, being good will get you 3 and 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you need to have like pairings will get you 4 and 1, and then the playing out of your mind / having luck on your side will get you the 5 and 0.
Sure.
And so like you're sort of like the 3, 2, 4 and 1 are things that are sort of in your control. That's the I want to play well. I'm going to pick an army that's going to have good pairings because I've read the meta. I know like that like I'm going into a place where there's going to be a lot of Soulblight Gravelords. I'm going to bring something that beats Soulblight Gravelords, right? Like that sort of soft RPS we're starting to see settle into our game too. So and then that 5 and 0 like that's more of an any given Sunday. Like once you're on top tables, once you're performing at that level, you're performing at that level with other people at that level, and you're talking about like 1% and 2% of advantages are starting to decide some stuff, and you kind of got to be like if you're at 4 and 1, I guess is what I'm saying. Like be happy. You're any given Sunday away from a 5 and 0 finish, right? Like
and for me, like I was I kind of understate sometimes how much I grinded Warmahordes, and I'll harken back to that a lot because I gained a lot of experience playing that game. Granted, different game system, but I did have some pretty big tournament wins, and I have no, I'm not going to say no interest because I know myself and I know how I can be. But when I show up to a tournament now and I go 3-2, like sick. Like that's awesome.
I think wanting a winning weekend is a healthy goal for a lot of people. I mean, and I think that's the start. That's the starting point. I know coming over from some tournament play, being an MTG grinder, being literally a king of the hill of my own tiny little con circuit as far as like fighting games went to my particular fighting games of choice. Like I know that feeling, and I've been around games my whole life. I'm like, I could pick up games pretty well and perform at a decent level. It's just how like my brain is wired for them. I've played them a bunch. As long as I find the right bridge in, the right sort of like communication for like, well, this is like in Magic when you have a control player, like, and they're going to try to counterspell you, and I'm like, oh, so it's okay, then I know how to deal with that, right? Like, that's the sort of once you have those bridges over, you the sort of like the sort of diminishing returns on like getting into a game are a little bit easier. But like the thinking I'm going to go to a tournament with like a bunch of people who were about as good as you or better, and just I'm going to take the first tournament I go to, I'm going to get best death the first turn. That goal can become prohibitive to a good experience.
Yeah,
but
100%.
But a 3-2 is a healthy goal for your first, second, third tournament because one, it's a lot more achievable. It's it also puts you in that like uncomfortable zone of learning something if you drop to 2 and 3. What stopped you from going to 3-2? Right? Like you always want to be a little bit outside of your comfort zone with a goal, right? That's you know, if it's painting,
how you grow.
Yeah, that's how you grow. You always want to be a little bit uncomfortable. You never want to be comfortable. So, that's my little
And as a visual artist, I appreciate that 100%. The biggest piece of advice I ever got was if you get to a certain point, and I've heard it on mini painting channels, I've heard it in traditional painting, which was where I came from. If you get to the point and you're like, I could ruin this whole piece if I try this, that's where you want to be. And then you want to do it. Brilliant. Because that's where the growth happens. And that goes for everything. That goes for painting, that goes for getting better at tournaments, that goes for getting better at your job. Like everything. Like you get to a point where you're like, there's that tipping point, and if I try this, it might not work. But if it doesn't work, great, you learned that it doesn't work. If it did work, great. You're now at 4-1.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's the live dangerously, paint dangerously sort of like mentality. I'm gonna move this up here so people have an opportunity to see the chat gang comment before it gets cut off. All right. No, brilliant advice to transition in here. So as far as like artifacts go, this is not a fault of the Soulblight Gravelords book. As we've mentioned, it is the best book right now, currently written, currently active. That could change. But artifacts are just something that I feel like Games Workshop has traditionally struggled with. I want to give a little bit of an insight to not Games Workshop's design process so much, but from my experience, I've beta tested and alpha tested several different like video games and tabletop games. Like I've been a writer all my life. I've worked on sides of things. The way a game is designed is a little bit different from maybe how people think sometimes. And this is to give credence to like obviously like the writers are working hard. I don't think that it's not like they're writing crap artifacts on purpose. Sometimes it's design constraints. Sometimes they're told like actually every book needs 6 artifacts for every sub allegiance, and they need a sword, a helm, a cloak, a dagger, and you can do 2 weird ones, right? Like you can get design constraints like that. But more pointedly, oftentimes when it comes to like a physical text that is being printed out, you have some very specific design constraints, like down to the character and number of characters you put on a page. Yep. Oftentimes companies, most companies I've worked with, you have a layout set for that Battletome. They know it's going to be 160 pages, beginning to end, before a drop of ink is down. Okay? This sounds like this is your experience too from your writer side of things. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So like it can be like you get like we know you're going to have the allegiance section of a book is going to be this big, and it's going to be this many pages. You're going to get a page of artifacts here, a page of artifacts there, and it's going to be this many characters, or this many. It's going to take up this amount of space. So what some people don't always realize when they go in and they feel like there are filler artifacts, like sometimes like
there have to be.
There are things that you throw in, and so I want to lay that all out there as we're about to like armchair quarterback the shit out of this. That is, designers, I see you, I feel you, but still like we're gonna zhuzh up the artifacts. So I want everyone to know that like there is some design stuff that like is kind of getting hand waved here. Cut some slack there.
I'm looking at my list now. Yes.
And for now, you have your own agenda going into this. I'll let you explain yours in a second. And I've got my own agenda going into this. Because any good writer, any good designer, I, by the way, love the designer side of things a lot more than the developer side of things. And I could give you a whole show on that. Like I've already done that in a previous RantCast. Yeah. So there's a designer and a developer. A hare and a tortoise, like there's a writer and an editor. Like there's this sort of like there are two sort of like ways to approach. Now, a lot of writers do edit their own stuff, but any great writer will always tell you, do not be the editor the same time you're being the writer.
Yeah.
The writer's job is to write, get out the idea, be as creative as possible, get the story together. Don't worry about the fact that you said it was midnight in that scene and noon in the next. Just go. Write. Get it out. Let the creativity flow. The editor's job is to go back and deal with all that shit. And that sort of, you, by the way, as a writer, you go back and you do your syntax edit, and you go back there and you do your own personal edits too. But again, when you go to a design, when you jump to games, then you're talking like a designer and a developer. This is one of the things that I think Games Workshop could absolutely have room for improvement on, is just hiring more developers and designers, and that relationship being a little bit stronger, because right now you have writers and designers being also developers, and like they're just sort of that's.
And I'm gonna
go ahead. Yeah, jump in here.
I'm gonna tell you here, when it comes to design, something stuck out about the writing end. For anyone who is an aspiring writer or a current writer, writing is done in the editing. Great writing is made in your edits. I am one of those people. I wouldn't consider myself a great writer, but what I mean is most of my best ideas become more fleshed out when I edit them.
That's the eureka moment, right? Like that's the moment where like you have a good idea and you're fleshing something out. It's when you go back in that second time, because the point of getting it all out there is you get it all out there so that it's there. It's not lost in the ether. And when you go back to that, like, drives a Cadillac, and you're just like, what? And then you're just like, Cadillac? What was I thinking?
Does
and
he?
Like, oh, and then like, and that's where you start to think it a little bit more, and that's where like some of that genius stuff sort of comes through. But again, it's writer, developer, designer, developer, important things to understand. Now, every writer, every designer, as well as developers, are going to have their own agendas. Like developers are going to say, hey, your page layout, and stuff like that. When you go into writing, on the writing side, what I was taught, and you can speak to this if it's the same or different, what I was taught at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, and a lot of the advanced courses I took getting there, was essentially hammering home premise. Premise. What's your premise for your story? What's your character premise? If the character premise clashes with the story premise always wins. Like, most character premises should reinforce the story premise, and you can get to like more complex stories where like premises are interwoven or they evolve and so on and so forth. But like blah blah blah, premise. Okay. Mm-hmm. This is very similar to something else you're going to hear Vince and other people say a lot of times, which is your first principles. Pretty much a similar idea, right? Your first principles of a design. My principles, essentially, going into this, is I wanted to make more interesting artifacts. Interesting is not always the same as balanced.
Yeah.
And I had a sort of like, I use my premise and I use my design principles as like guardrails. When I start to go off the rails, or like I go, oh, nope, that's out of line, and I go back on the rails. In writing, I use my premise if I get stumped on where I think how a scene should play out. Well, what serves the premise better? That's how the scene should play out. So one of my sort of like other guiding principles of design was I wanted to make artifacts that I wanted to use, and I could see being used for a specific thing or to enable a specific thing. Now, I did leave some open-ended combos because you're going to like get some of that, but that's where playtesting is. That's where developing comes in, right? So I'm in the designer brain. I did kind of re-edit some of these, and I wrote in suggestions for fixing some of my own items, but I wanted to lay my cards on the table for when I went in here. I went into each sub-allegiance. I wrote them each an artifact. I got carried away. I fixed a few artifacts. And then I wrote 2 bonus artifacts. Rather, I wrote 1 bonus artifact, and then I asked the Lord of Death, Brendan, if he could have 1 artifact, what would it be? He told me, and I essentially designed it. Well, I didn't design. He told me what it would be, and I guess I was the developer in that sense. He designed it, and I developed it. So,
for sure.
So that, look at that little interplay. See, you wear writers, we wear the hats. So that's my agendas. That's what I did. what was your experience? What was your process?
So, it kind of add an addition to premise. My big wisdom was always context is the great equalizer. Without it, nothing in your story makes any
Well,
sense.
that's life advice too, by the way.
Yeah.
Context is everything.
So I wanted to. I was going into this book with artifacts that are already good, like Vyrkos and Kastalei. You take other artifacts other than amulet. Like I see it regularly. Um, so I went with the emotional aspect of the book.
Ooh,
I
I like
read the
this.
lore for each dynasty and I said, how does this dynasty make me feel? What kind of power projection do I want to feel when I'm putting these models on the table?
Mm, I
So I
love that.
took that idea and then I was like, how do I add rules to that? How can the rules make me feel like this cool thing is happening? Because that's why we're all playing this game. Well, not all. I can't speak for everyone. I am playing it because it is just like it's storytelling with a game on top. Are you kidding me? Of course I love it.
I love to say that AOS is the place where all the voices in my head come together, like to play. It's got that like competitive appeal, the spike. It's got the creativity, the storytelling, the narrative. Like prior to breaking my hand, I was a pretty decent painter and sculptor.
Sure.
Like I'd throw pots and stuff like that, and I made my own jewelry.
Mhm.
And then like a lot of that fell apart, and I didn't keep up on my painting and drawing. I started to do little doodles again. That's like the first step to
Sure.
getting back to getting back what I'd lost.
Absolutely.
But like painting has been like just the like I like touching things with my hands and doing stuff. That's why I love doing oil pastel and chalk pastel
Yeah.
because you're like in it.
It's an intimate
Yeah.
model painting, especially. It's intimate. And
Yeah.
I really went into my artifacts with that attitude. Because think about how much time you spend painting your army. Do you want to put those on the table with artifacts that feel like they're just there to serve the rules? Or do you want to put them on the table with artifacts that make that model that you put so much time into come to life and be good? Mine aren't balanced. Playing games my whole life and being an artist and a writer does not a game designer make. Um,
Mm.
I I understand that some of mine might be a little broken or not even good, depending on who you ask. But I did my best to take both the game part of what I love about it and the fantasy that I love about it and kind of mash them together until I have something that I would be like, this feels cool, and I'm excited to use this on Saturday when I meet up with my friends.
See, I love that. I love that you're approaching it from the emotional aspect and the narrative aspect. Like me with my weird skepticism and like superior logical brain and like thinking I've been a very like I'm a dirty creative, but thinking I approach the world right. I've just realized that I've been wrong about even how I see stuff my whole life, and I've devalued emotions way too much for way too long. And that was as a what I realized is that was as like a essentially a survival mechanism when I was younger. But now I'm like older and betterer, and recognizing that like actually like kind of like the passion, the emotion, the like that stuff is like what keeps me invested. Like you can logic your way to all the like the big brain strategy plays, but then it's solved. You can never really
Right.
solve passion, you know.
No, never. Can
So
only feed it.
right, yes. So we've laid our cards on the table. We said essentially our premises or our first principles, like how we approach this. I know that SJ and Doc King had like a pretty SJ specifically had like one of his main principles was like I want to entice you to not take amulet. Pretty
Sure.
healthy design space to work in, right? Like, and yeah, and which reminds me, one of my goals was also to push things into interesting design spaces.
Absolutely.
Developers can worry about the numbers to make shit balanced later. I
Hmm.
wanted to push things very specifically into a design space where someone goes, Oh man, I would love to. I can
Oh yeah.
never. I can never go back and make that artifact where the shout effect first. I could never do it.
Oh
That
no.
is forever not mine. But I could push
I've
stuff
got
into.
Johnny in my list as well.
You got Johnny.
Oh,
Yeah,
there's combos in here.
I'd love to talk about Sylvaneth. Sylvaneth came up. So we've done chaos. We're working on death. So we got to do a destruction faction and order faction next on the Great Enhancening. I landed on Sylvaneth. I want to talk to Sigil. And maybe someone else, Penny. We can wrap off the show. And I landed on Sylvaneth because the fear with doing something as long lasting as the Great Enhancening is that new books come out and instantly ruin this type of content.
Hmm.
So I kind of went with like some safer stuff earlier, or even
Sure.
if Corn comes out, then we get to say that they still are good ideas.
Exactly.
Um,
Thanks, James Workshop.
Gits, yeah, we'll see. We'll talk about it. Actually, maybe I'll do a poll. I'll do some sort of poll. Which ones would people like more? Make it interactive, you know.
Well, Sylvaneth are beautiful.
Yeah,
I want to hear about Sylvaneth.
yeah, yeah. I think Sylvaneth is just a good. I mean, passion drives a lot of what I do. Guests come on because they have a passion for the thing. It's not even
Hmm.
necessarily, like, you were SJ was like, "Yo, dude loves SBG." I'm like, good enough for me.
Love them.
Loves them. So it's the passion driving it. Like, I'm not looking for the best developers in the universe. I think, and I allowed myself on this rabbit hole for this specific reason. When the DOK book came out, this most
Hmm.
recent one, I looked at it and I saw a book that was made with passion. I looked at it, I'm like, the
Yeah.
numbers, again, numbers are numbers. You can fix numbers.
Yeah.
Who cares about numbers?
Oh, and they're good, but it was passionate.
Right. It's like somebody went through and they're like, I want this. I want to like think about when you're a kid. Cast your mind back, and when you're just like you're grabbing hold of toys and you're going like this should do this thing, and you're like and you're just
Yeah.
getting excited, and it almost doesn't make any sense to you, or it doesn't make any sense to anybody else, but it makes sense to you because you're just like
Yeah.
in the mode, and that's where I want books to be written from, and I
Hmm.
want Games Workshop to have people on every single book that any one of you in chat gang right now who is like utterly in love with your army. I want someone like you working on that army's book every single time because you're going to see the passion, you're going to see the creativity come out in the ideas, you're going to see the design space that stuff goes into, like stretch and go in weird directions. And then I want a
Hmm.
developer who is cold, emotionless, loves nothing, go back through and fix it.
Yep.
Like
100%.
like that's what I want for that's my if I were James Workshop for a day. And
Yep.
the theory is I might be in a Tyler Durden sense. Uh
Aren't we all James Workshop?
Aren't we all James Workshop? His name is Robert Paulson. Yeah. So it just there. So to that end, there are some good artifacts. I don't know if we want to go by and go this is good, this is bad, or if we want to just like jump right in. You want to maybe name some highlights of artifacts that you thought were good, really like this goes in the direction. I didn't want to mess with that.
Name
Like,
artifacts that I've used.
there, perfect. Yeah.
Let me pop open the books so that I don't get them wrong. But I'm gonna go out on like I'm just gonna say I really haven't played Legion of Blood or Legion of Night a lot.
That's fine.
Uh,
Nobody has.
I played Legion of Blood a lot in the Legions and Cash book because they gave me Flying Blood Knights, and how could you ever take that away from me? I'll never ever get over it. Um, so Terminus Clock. We've talked about this. It's cool. It sounds awesome, and it messes with wizards. I play against Zinch a lot. I use Terminus Clock. Sangerson is a dope artifact to give to a Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon. It's boring but good is usually what I find in Kastalei. Specifically Fragment of the Keep, which
So
is the -1 to wound.
so
Uh,
my problem with Terminus Clock, I would just make
mhm.
it an auto unbind. I
I
mean,
would too.
a -1 to cast. I said I wasn't going to fix artifacts. I told me I made I don't want to fix artifacts, but I fixed a couple anyway. And then I just fixed Terminus Clock. This is such a sweet item, but like it should just be an auto unbind, right? Like,
Right.
I mean
I agree.
it's so metal. Like,
It's
yeah,
good, but I get like I think that it could be fixed, but it's still not bad.
Right, it's not bad. Like -1 to casting, you're talking about your like your double casters or your triple
Mm-hmm.
casters. Like it's hitting, it's hitting every one of them.
And it's throughput, like you said, it's hitting everybody. It's
It's
efficiency.
all the wizards have a -1,
Yeah.
which is pretty dang good. I mean, situationally, it's actually better than just saying one auto unbind, right? So
And I use Fragment of the Keep a lot because when I'm fighting a melee army, like -1 to wound in a 6-inch sphere, like for enemies, that's great. Especially if you're playing against like a melee blender army. Like every little bit counts. It's not the most huge and exciting. I think that Fragment of the Keep is boring, but it's good. Uh, I use Standard the Crimson Keep a lot as well because I play against KO. -1 to hit for shooting weapons. Yeah, sure. I'll take that.
yeah,
Because every attack that I'm getting thrown at me is shooting. So they're good, but they don't make me like I don't get like excited to use that.
yeah.
It's just a thing that
It's
happens.
just numbers, right?
Yeah.
This is the worst type of for me. The worst type of artifact is it's just numbers.
Yeah.
Like it like they can be the most efficient artifacts in the game, which is what you end up seeing happen because I mean, unless something that is random is such a good effect, and you're going to see this come through in some of my design here. Unless the thing that is happening is such a good effect, it's worth the gamble. People tend to just go with the it's just numbers, like it works, good thing,
Yeah.
right?
I'm gonna
Um,
make a lot of enemies right now, and
uh-oh,
I'm gonna say three things.
uh-oh.
Hero Hammer is fun.
Yes.
War Scrolls is where the numbers should be. Artifacts should be fun.
Ooh, yeah, there you go. Yeah. No, I love that.
Fight me, internet.
Fight me, internet. You won't.
You won't.
Yeah, yeah. Every time I hear Legion of Blood, no, I understand the misnomer there. It's very easy to do, Lord Will. Blood Knights are the Kastalei Dynasty thing, but when you hear Legion
Yeah.
of Blood Knights, you automatically think,
Well, that's where they used to be.
sure, that too.
Like you used to run Blood Knights in Legion of Blood because, like I said, flying Blood Knights. Who doesn't like that?
They pseudo
It's
fly now.
awesome.
They have over. They have over.
Well, yeah,
I know it's not as good, but I like it. Dare I say better because I like trampling people and like
it's better mechanically.
the idea that you like trample through stuff and like you get the retreat and charge too effectively, and then I
Mhm.
like impact hits. So
Yeah, impact hits are awesome.
I agree on two of the points. Good. See, my show isn't. Well, no, this show is telling you exactly what to think, but usually my goal isn't to tell you what you should think. It's to tell you what I think and defend my position preemptively. But today we're telling you what you should think. This is the Great Enhancing. This is how we enhance AOS. So we're going to start out with Legion of Blood. This is Navarada's sub-allegiance. The one I've seen the least amount of list building and attempts at making something good out of, which is weird because it's the one that gets, as I recall, Graveguard as battle line, and Graveguard are great.
I think that's Legion of Night.
Oh, is that Legion of Night? Never mind.
I
I
don't want
take
to be
yeah, no.
actually
No,
guy.
no, no. You should correct me. Being correct is better than no, no, no. Be correct. Actually is
I
only annoying
have
when it's pedantic. We need to be correct here.
Graveguard,
I thought they got
Legion of Night. I could have sworn it was Legion of Night, but I could be wrong.
no, no. Checking will correct me too. Legion of Blood.
I don't know. Chat will figure it out.
If an enemy unit falls, blah. I don't know. It's not important. Legion Knight is
Oh no.
Vargeist's Battlelight.
Graveguard battle line is with the White King General.
All right, never mind. It's just the White King General. Never mind. All right, ignore me. I said I'm just gonna fix that in post. Yeah, yeah, White King. That's it. Oh, I love that so much better than locking it behind an allegiance, though, because anyone can
because
take a White King.
Graveguard. Slap.
Yeah. All right. So, artifacts. You want to start? You're the guest. Go ahead and start.
Sure. And I will warn chat, I
Wait.
wrote flavor text.
Yeah, go ahead and go first.
So Legion of Blood, we have the Shattered Drinking Glass. The flavor text is, what is a man?
Oh!
At the start of the hero phase, when the bearer chooses targets for Deathless
A
Invocation,
miserable
they may
pile of
target
secrets!
any unit with the Soulblight Gravelords keyword. We are talking about Deathless Invocations on heroes. We're talking about it on monsters. With the Shattered Drinking Glass, you can heal whatever you want when you use Deathless Invocations.
I love that. I love that. What a way to set the tone, too, with the Castlevania. Brilliant.
I had to start with it.
Oh.
I couldn't help it.
No, that's perfect. So I'm gonna come back to one of these. This is one where I've got a bonus artifact in it.
Okay.
But I think I have. How many artifacts do you have?
I have one for each.
One for each. So I've got an extra one. I'm gonna do both of mine for Legion of Blood then. Okay.
Perfect.
So the first one is called the Bloodsidian Ritual Blade.
Okay.
I too have flavor text. The Bloodsidian blade is a crimson kriss, so dark it appears, a glistening black, save for a single pulsing vein of glowing red through the center. It's said this blade is made from the cursed Soulblight blood and grave sand. It gives you +1 to cast, unbind, etc. Once per game, you may summon 2d6 wounds of summonable stuff. Outside of 9 inches of an enemy, but wholly within 12 of the bearer.
That's awesome.
In your hero phase. So in your hero phase, 2d6, boom, wounds worth of summonable crap.
That's awesome. I
love it. I just stole an old GA Death artifact and made it a little bit better. Because the Ritual Blade being gone is a travesty, but just summoning 2d6 worth of crap isn't enough to entice someone to take this, and it's a Ritual Blade. You should have a +1 to... You should just have a static. I don't like once per game effects, like, in general, unless they do something absurd. 2d6, like, you're going to summon Graveguard because it's the best thing you've got. Like, getting 12 Graveguard is pretty fucking good, but on average you're going to get 7. I don't know. Is just getting 7 Graveguard better than a amulet ethereal?
I would say probably no, but it's more fun.
Right, and that's why I entice you with the +1.
Yeah.
So that's the Bloodsidian Blade, and then this is the Lord of Death artifact. He developed it, or he designed it. I developed it.
Okay.
Right.
Give it to me.
One of the 9. The bearer of this flavor text first. Could it be? Is this one of Nagash's famed 9 books? How in Shyish did it come to you? No matter, Nagash is a jealous, inevitable ruler. Hold tight, for in time both you and the book will be returned.
The heat. The absolute heat.
The bearer of this tome, from worlds past, can choose 3 spells between the lores of Vampire and Lore of Death Mage tables. They receive a +1 bonus to cast, unbind, etc., and may cast 1 additional spell during their hero phase, and unbind 1 additional spell during their opponents. Should the user roll double ones to cast or unbind, they are slain outright.
Oh no, I love it. We love to see it.
So...
That's incredible. It's got big Necronomicon vibe.
Doesn't it?
It's so good.
Yeah, so like the other thing about this is like the design space I want people to imagine Mark of the Destroyer for nerds. The thing I want people to imagine is like what if every one of the 9 books, like 2 of 9, 3 of 9, like 7 of 9 clearly the best, right? But if you did like 9 books and you designed one for each of the sub-allegiances, or each of the Mortarchs or something like that, and had that artifact, like had an artifact that was one of each of the 9 books of Nagash, spread out across the death armies and stuff, that would be some metal ass design space.
Yeah, it'd be fucking sick.
Right? But yeah, like the notion that like Nagash will steal your fucking soul through the book is pretty metal too.
Right. He's always there.
So Legion of Night, you're up.
Legion of Night. This is my Johnny combo artifact. We have the Cracked Sylvanian Mirror. This discarded testament to vanity now reflects only the paranoia of its bearer. Increase effects that would allow an enemy model to deploy at least 9 inches away from this model to 12 inches.
That's awesome. That, like, this kills the crab for so many people.
So we're talking... We've got Legion of Night. You know you're taking Manfred. He's got his teleport. He can, zoop all over the place. But now, let's say you've got a Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, Foot Vampire Lord, Necromancer, whatever. Deep Strike suddenly got a little less scary. This is the tricky faction. They're supposed to be paranoid and, always watching their back. It's huge.
Yeah. No, oh man, that's just like, that's the shout moment, I think.
And it still gives the opponent a chance. You can roll boxcars and get a 12 and still get the charge.
Right, yeah, and that creates a hype as fuck moment. Because of course you're going to try to roll it anyway, right?
You have to.
Like, oh man. See, I love this is the shout artifact of this cast. Unless, like,
I don't know.
The design space, oh, you've got more? No, but, like, the design space of, like, across the game, that's the type of artifact where I'm like, you could put that in anyone's tome with the right reasoning, right? And where that pulls things to go, what it does to shooting, because now instead of 9-inch, like, drop and pop from 9, you're looking at drop and pop, like, from 12, and then I'm setting my screen 12 out.
Yep.
Right? Like, and so
there's
now,
so much interplay with it.
Right. Yeah. Like the Fibonacci sequence cues, and I start like seeing the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that. Hasn't peaked yet.
And the way I came up with it is I imagined, classic vampire trope. They can't see themselves, but they're using it to watch over their back. Why else would a vampire have a mirror?
Brilliant. Yeah, this is Xeno's final form. So my Legion of Night comes with notes. I say, first things first, remove Morbeg's Claw from the book and issue an apology note. And then add back the Von Karstein ring, a.k.a. the Ring of Immortality. Travis, I got you, fam. Ring of Immortality, when you die, you're supposed to roll on a 3-up. You can be placed back on the table within 18 inches of where you died. We're getting rid of that. You turn into a fucking bat or a bunch of rats or a mist or something like that. We add in some flavor text. And you end up anywhere on the table you want at a D3 wounds. And you do not roll for a 3-up. It just works. It's a fucking artifact. It's the Von Karstein ring. You just do it. Okay?
My man.
So that's Morbeg's Claw is removed from the game. Morbeg's Claw is the definition of a problematic artifact. It suddenly makes Nagash a +5 to cast, which is just bonkers. No, this is no, please no. But also it has a weird penalty for no reason. That is like the lightest sort of slap on the wrist it could possibly be, where like now you can't move. It's just I don't like the design of it. I don't like where it's at. I don't like what it does. It's a once per game, which automatically makes me not like it. Morbeg's Claw, no. So there you go. So the solution to what you wanted, Kicker, is just bringing back an old artifact with like a slight update. But then the artifact I added was the Betrayer's Cowl. Not to be confused with the Betrayer's Crown, okay? Those are all gone, apparently. All those artifacts from an entire generation of, like, warring are just lost to time. Someone use your sword. Robot detected. Not today, robot.
He's got a woe face. Oh, whoa, what's this?
Yeah. So this ancient object is woven from shade spider silk taken from the darkest parts of Ulgu and imbued with ambitious magics that seem to wipe the wearer from the very minds of those who gaze upon them. The few bold enough to wear such a trinket often find betrayal goes both ways. So I'm going to self-plagiarize with this one. You get the assassin rule. This was from
Shit.
the sort of episode that started it all, where Vince Venturella and I redid the generic magic artifacts, enhancenated them, you might say. So you can stash a hero, cap it at up to 9 wounds. 9 wounds is just like the number that Games Workshop uses for everything. So you can't stash a dragon. If some problematic unit comes out that is like 9 wounds and just absolutely should not be given this ability, we drop it down to 6. But 9 is to keep it consistent with their design. They say 9 wounds for a lot of stuff. 9s are cut off here too. Okay. Again, if problematic unit, we can numbers are numbers. Who cares?
Sure.
In a unit per the assassin rule, and just copy its text, whatever. Furthermore, once armies are set up, but before the beginning of the first battle round, select an enemy hero. 6 is the hit, and I'm going to immediately nerf this because I'm reading it back to myself right now. 6 is the hit, inflict 1d6 mortal wounds. 1's to hit, deal 1d3 mortal wounds to you.
Okay.
So if you want to be less fun and more balanced, it does 2 mortals and ends the attack sequence, and 1 to you.
Sure.
It's you're already
that's
getting
not why we're here.
You're already getting the assassin rule, so we don't need to also do a d6 mortals. You can drop it down to 2 and 1. But I like the idea that it actually like betrays you and starts hurting you and stuff.
Yeah, I like that. That's very cool.
So, Vyrkos Dynasty.
Oh, we're going Vyrkos next. Okay.
What did I?
Yeah, let's do it.
What did I skip?
It saves my cool ones for last.
That was Legion of Blood, Legion of Night, Vyrkos.
Yeah.
Yep.
We have the Ulfenkarnian Hunting Horn.
Okay.
In the woods surrounding Ulfenkarn, all are prey to the Vyrkos. In the hero phase, you may say you may say the bearer will blow the horn. You may remove the bearer from the battlefield and set it up within 3 inches of any friendly direwolf unit and at least 6 inches away from enemy models.
So, how are we using this? Like, what's your intent when you went in with this?
My intent when I go in with this is, let's say you're running really wolf heavy. Like, let's say you've gone double down on Vyrkos. You've got Belladama. You've got Radikar. This incentivizes you to fan out your direwolves. And then, let's say you're running a Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon. He blows the horn. Suddenly, he doesn't need that giant movement. Saves yourself a cast. You don't have to cast Amethystine Pinions. You can cast Mystic Shield instead. You're suddenly on the other side of the table, not from 9 inches, 6 inches away. The design space that I was in when I thought of this was specifically the wolves, and the concept that when you see one wolf, that means there's others close.
Yeah.
So instead of the 6, instead of the 9, you get the 6, because the trap is already set. The wolves are already there. Well, it's the wolf you don't see that comes in and destroys your shit.
Right, and your opponent's gonna like lose to it the first time every time, even though you told them what you're about to do, and then they'll learn. Right, that's the type of artifact where they're like, "Oh, this is 6 inches I need to be worried about," and like you'll be like, "This is what I'm going to do to you," and then like it'll be turn 3 and they'll forget, and then you're gonna do it. I love it. Wolf's trees, yeah, big fan. In Soviet Russia, the wolves are the trees. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Built-in counter, like Northrax said. Just kill the wolves if you don't want it to happen.
Yep, kill the wolves. Yep, perfect. I do like the Jackie Daytona's toothpick. Normal human bartender. Very good. Yeah, no, that was great. Ulf paints. Which reminds me, if you have an idea for your own artifacts, put them in the comments in the down there part on the YouTube video. Obviously in Chat Gang, you throw them out there. Any artifacts that you're serious about, DM me them. On Twitter is best. It's the one I check the most. Otherwise, Discord. And I'm making a master document of all the artifacts we make here officially. If your artifact is cool enough, if the Shadow Council thinks your artifact is cool enough, we'll add it to the master document as well. And if you want to play in your narrative games with our enhanced artifacts, you very well may.
The good ones?
Yeah, the good artifacts, right. So my artifact is the Moon-Slicked Cloak.
Ooh.
Little Bloodborne inspiration on this one, by the way.
Can't fault you for that because it's a perfect game.
It is a perfect game, isn't it? A bulky winter cloak, once used to keep the mad scholar warm late nights researching the Vyrkos' unique bloodline before his poetic end. It still shimmers with dark moon dust and more organic remnants.
Gnarly.
So roll a die at the beginning of the game. After armies are set up, but before the first battle round, this is the common language you see. If the result on the die is even, this artifact works on even battle rounds. If the result is odd, this artifact works on odd battle rounds.
Okay.
If it's a 6, it works for the duration of the game. This die roll may not be augmented or modified in any way by any ability whatsoever.
Looking at you, fake dice.
No, you can't. No, like any future thing that happens, any tournament rerolls, you can't. Nothing. Okay. The user of this artifact may run and still charge. Furthermore, all melee attacks made by the user, not including their mount, are done so at an increased -2 rend and deal +1 damage. So, I noticed that this has some gas to it. I thought that it being random might compensate for how powerful it is.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to make a -3 artifact, a -3 rend artifact, and that's just what it does.
Sure.
I thought that, like, this would be comparable to a -3 rend artifact. That's just, that's what it does.
And it sounds cooler.
Right, but since it's, like, half the time, or sometimes less than half the time, if you get even battle rounds, right?
Right.
And then, like, 16% of the time it can be the whole time. I thought that might compensate for the fact that it's, like, it is a powerful effect. Run and charge is good.
Yeah, definitely.
Not great. There's usually ways to also get it instead, especially in Vyrkos. So, like, run and charge is good. You want it on your Vlasta, right? You fucking throw it on a Vlasta. So knowing you're gonna throw it on a Vlasta, adding 2 rend to the Vlasta, I'm like, okay, so we can drop it to 1 rend and 1 damage. Easy. Again, numbers are numbers. 1 rend, 1 damage. We can modify it to be where it only works on off of the charge. Or we can. My favorite one is that you can't use command abilities those turns that this artifact is active.
That'd be a good way to balance it.
But if I do that, I want it to be -2 rend, +2 damage.
Yeah, it should bump it up to just silly levels,
like bonkers. Like
because command abilities in 3 are just
too good. Right.
You need them.
Right. And so I think that if I think my so this is my, like, proposed to the developer. I proposed this, and they go out and they play test, and they go, "This is too good." Then
they yell at you.
Then they yell at me for going into too weird of a space, and I'm like, "But it's fun, isn't it?" And then I'm going to tell them that then turn off CAs for the turns it works, but then bump the damage to rend 2 +2 damage. So it's like sick ass bonkers, but the downside is kind of brutal.
Yeah, for sure. I like it.
All right. And then I go to Kastalei Dynasty next, and then end on Avengorii. So, if you want to do...
So, Kastalei is my wordy one. Strap in, folks.
Yeah.
We have the Shard of the Impaler.
Shard of the Impaler, 1 second. Yeah, the roll is fun. Isn't it fun? It's one thing, one extra thing to remember, but it also, like, it evokes the narrative aspect of, like, the reason you're rolling is, like, where's the moon? Like, it's like a moon transformation type thing. Like playing that with the werewolf vibes. Like, the narrative is in there. I love it. Yeah, so that's where my head was at. Like, I wanted something werewolfy, and that's Definitely. Where I went. So moon phases came to mind. Rolling a die, like that's where I went for that design philosophy.
Yeah.
Rolling dice is fun, especially when it's just like add die to do something powerful.
That's why we're here.
Right. All right. Shard. Reset it real quick.
We have Shard of the Impaler. Locked deep within the shifting keep lies the cursed death lance of a once feared blood knight. Once per combat phase, pick one of the bearer's melee weapons, mount excluded. If the bearer slays a model, pick a number of units based on the wound characteristic of the slaying model within 6 inches of the bearer. 1 to 5 wounds, 1 unit. 5 to 10 wounds, 2 units. You can heal up to D3 wounds allocated. If no wounds are allocated, you can bring stuff back with a wound characteristic of D3 or less.
I love that.
So you're coming in with the Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, which is going to start shitting on stuff the minute that it gets in combat. But I imagine just, like, obviously I went Vlad the Impaler with this design space.
That's great.
Just sticking people, bringing corpses back from those dead victims. Just the middle of the board is just a bloody mess.
Yeah. See, I like what we're both. We're about to be on the same page very thoroughly in a second.
Sure.
We both wanted more undeadiness to our army. Is something that happened because like undead for me is. Somebody said like the last RantCast or the RantCast before that like undead should probably summon a little bit more and chaos should summon a little less.
Agreed.
Like and I didn't say it, and it wasn't even a death player that said it. I think it was a chaos player, and I'm just like, yeah, like I go back to like when in doubt when it comes to Age of Sigmar, cast your mind back to when you were a child imagining playing Warhammer, right? And like the fun part, remember fun, you know, that's it's quintessential. And one of the things that got me into death to begin with was like I love that I could just like summon zomblers onto the field, and like when I died, my zombies would explode and stuff. Like I thought that was the cool because if you killed the necromancers, everything in the radius had to take a shock test, essentially, or a break test, or explode. Like you had to keep like your leadership around because your leader, all the stuff's leadership was tested on. I actually enjoyed that. I don't. It's too finicky to do it now. Like please no, but like having things that feel like that still is good.
And for me, I like the summoning, and the where I wanted to go with this is like the cool part about death summoning to me is you're not just like opening portals and shooting demons out. I'm messing your dudes up. And then I'm bringing them back on my side. These are my dudes now.
Yes.
Which is what I love about death.
Right.
It's like, those are mine.
Yeah, well, like the Legion of Nagash Battletome has a great scene that they describe where as like when the Age of Sigmar started, right? Like the Stormcasts come back, and then like Nagash like he did the Shaq meme, like he wakes, and then like he just like standing up. Necrotic energy erupted out and killed everything, and that stuff before it could even hit the ground was raising up undead, and they're just charging towards the next stuff. And obviously, like we play like a simulacrum of the narrative of the game, right? Like, and like that notion of like they go on to describe like no sooner than they could kill stuff was it being like resurrected to like fight the thing. And I remember there's this great scene in World War Z, underrated by the way as far as zombie stuff goes, I think. But there's this scene where like the zomblors are just like trying to climb up over the wall. They're using each other and like they start to look like ants. There's a scene described like that where like they're trying to like there's like I don't know if it's like a demon prince or like a bloodletter or like a greater demon of corn or something like that. And like he's just like killing the undead in swaths. But like as he's killing them, they're resurrecting and just like to where they just like eventually just like elephant ant him to death or army ant him to death. Like we just And I like that personally, and I like that our death effectively has like hard caps, or our summoning has hard caps on one the stuff we bring back summonable. It's very specific what we get to bring back, like very specific, way more specific than Chaos's summoning list, and it tends to be stuff you've already invested. So, with a couple of very exceptions, my summoning blade that I mentioned earlier, you're gonna have 12 extra, Graveguard
dudes.
When you show up but that's
I like the undead aspect of death. I'm the vampire werewolf fanboy though. Like I like what I love about vampires is that they're like indulgent to the extreme, and they're petty and fancy and they're pretty. Like they're such a perfect reflection of what you'd want the good guy to be. And that's what I love about them. And they're tragic. It's a bummer to be a vampire. It's not fun.
So I think this is the first official true rabbit hole. We've had adjacencies, but not true rabbit holes. Like that's why I think like horror or monster stories are so compelling. Is that like is the things that make like the best monsters the best is usually that there's some aspect of like the hero totally inverted, right? and in that sort of dark mirror, that reflection, you sort of like you find the sweet spot in like sort of like what it means to be human, or in our world, what is humanity, is when we have that sort of
Right.
reverberation between like this inversion of good altruism, like things that we consider to be good stuff, and not, and the tragedy
Right.
of vampires make them relatable, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why Magneto is one of the greatest villains. He's so like, not only is he
Yeah,
based in like
I
super,
get it.
yeah, like not only is he like super based and like left pilled and stuff like that, but also because he's a fucking anarchist, but also like he's very relatable, and like you see how his tragedy rolls into him perpetuating tragedy,
Mm-hmm.
and like you
Yeah.
get it, like as much as I love a good like Twister style like monster movie where the monster
Mm-hmm.
is incomprehensible, what really resonates with me is the monster I can kind of understand.
Yeah.
So
It's when you start questioning, oh shit, they're right.
mm.
It's
You're like,
when you start saying like, I kind of get where the bad guy's coming from, is what makes it for me. Like, a decision here, a bad choice there.
right.
Like, I get it.
How they got from here to there. If they
Yeah,
got dealt a slightly different hand, they might not have ended up the bad guy.
they might have been the hero.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
and
it's
it's awesome.
fascinating stuff. We may be the bad guys, but we aren't the bad
You're
guys.
not bad guy.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic movie too. Aerith Lives, like fucking spray painted all over. Excellent movie. Spectacle of draining, imbued with power of an energy vampire. Those who encounter this artifact become extremely fatigued, disinterested, and bored. Unit suffers from always strikes last, slow, and stupidity. I don't mind that. I'd like to move
Always
away
Strikes
from.
Last is cool.
I'd like to move away from the activation wars, but like, I, even though it was functionally the same, I liked Always Strikes Last a little bit better than Always Strikes First.
Hmm.
It just it felt more sensical, like being lethargic, than like something being so super fast. Like like I charge you, and yeah, I don't know.
Right.
Anyway, now I'm in the killing joke. Well, cringe. I don't like the assault scene. Pardon me. Kind of breaks the story for me. So, Kastalei Dynasty is where I have the most artifacts I fixed, because I started out with my like set of rules and principles for design, and then I broke my own rules as it got later and later last night.
Sure.
Um, and I was looking in Kastalei Dynasty, and this is the one that like I just jive with. Maybe it's the, I don't know, the where the Timmy meets the Johnny. Like I like the level up mechanics, like the RPG nerd.
Yeah.
Like I love Kastalei Dynasty, so I had all the opinions when it came to this one. Um, so the first thing I would do is change up 3 existing items.
Okay.
Sword of the Red Seneschal. And again, this is not this episode, this is a victory lap. Future Great Enhancenings, we're not out to fix existing items. We're to make every person's going to develop and design their own way. It isn't my intent that we just go through the book and fix every item. I don't want this to be a trend that I start now. Everyone look at the Corn episode for the template. That's the one you follow. Ignore me right now, okay? Sword of the Red Seneschal, just take the Slaking Blades ability.
Yeah.
This is a slam dunk for me. So the Slaking Blade, it is, you track the wounds that it allocates, which I guess gets a little bookkeepy, but it's fine. When it deals 6 wounds, you heal a D3. +1 damage to the weapon profile permanently for every 6 wounds you deal.
We designed the same artifact. I had that under Kastalei, and I was like, do I really want to track charges on my weapon?
I'm like, fuck it, yeah. Like,
yeah. No, I like it.
This is where the interesting thing. Artifacts got too rote. They're too normal.
They're boring.
They're boring. My artifacts should be a fucking mini game. When I played Warhammer Fantasy Battle, I had a deck of cards for my fucking artifacts and spells. God damn it! It should be a game within the game. Like, make them interesting. So the Seneschals, the Sword of the Red Seneschal should just be Slaking Blade. So because I've taken away the Sword of the Red Seneschal's ability, which I think is actually pretty good, I've got a fix for this too. It goes into the Blood Saint's shield. So we move the Sword of the Red Seneschal's effect, because I do like the effect. It's still pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Onto the
Yeah, it
shield.
is.
And this saints to me mean martyrdom. Martyrdom to me means like, being hurt. So rather than when you deal damage, it is if an enemy inflicts a wound to the bearer of this shield, add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by friendly Soulblight Gravelords units wholly within 12 inches of the bearer until the end of that phase. So what you have is you have some interesting the Red Seneschal's sword used to do this, but you had to like kill a model, and then that would happen. It's the same sort of thing, but we're inverting it a little bit in that like I want you to hit me so that I can activate my skeletons. The opponent has some counterplay because now I'm not just charging it with my like Vlazda and just like I'm gonna kill a thing, whatever, and then boom, my Graveguard activates. I'm playing some head games with you, like hit me. Like I want you to. Right.
You've got that parody of martyrdom.
Yeah.
It's like your skeletons are getting upset or, weeping before the altar of your dude getting hurt. I love it. It's flavorful and it's fun.
Right.
I like it.
Right. And then because subtracting 1 from casting rolls from wizards within 6 inch of the bearer is basically lame, it stays on the shield too. So it gets to do 2 things.
I'm into it.
It like if you want, you can erase the last line, and I literally don't care. But
yeah,
I like I like this on the shield. Since I co-opted the sword, I moved its ability down to the shield, and I made the martyrdom.
For sure.
Okay.
No, I like it.
And then the other thing is the standard of the Crimson Keep. It keeps its core ability. It is good, but add a bravery debuff to it. Like I'm bringing the standard of the Crimson Keep. You should be afraid.
That's sick.
So like
we hear now.
That's the basic. It could be 18 inches. Like it should probably have some parity with our core fear mechanic. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it might be 12 inches or 6 inches. It can be that amount for the. But like I have the standard of like the Crimson Keep. Like be afraid, cowards.
The castle is here now.
Yep.
You're fine.
Yep. So like the same thing. Like you get but then the castle's here and everything's scared. So that's baseline 1. It stacks with our core thing, so you can actually get a -3 bravery debuff on this like charging cavalrous army. For me, that just makes sense. Yeah. If you really want to give some extra spice, however, we could make it instead do the following. This is I'd leave it up to my developers to like make the call. This is an either or, by the way. You either get the bravery debuff and what it currently does, or you get this. You don't get both. This is if you want the extra spicy version of the standard of the Crimson Keep. When you charge, deal impact damage per the Liege Cavalos's ability. The charge roll a number of dice equal to the charge roll. On 6s, deal mortal wounds.
I liked it. I like that. That's awesome.
Like, so either or, you can't. So it's like you have this backbreaking charge, or it's like the castle is here, be afraid, and also don't shoot me good. I think that's I like that one better, that. But extra spice, you get like cool impact hits.
I like that.
And then the artifact I actually wrote, the Lance of the Crimson King. This heavy lance is said to possess such wicked power, it can tear rifts, and I always mispronounce rift, so this is deliberate, pun on my own speech. It can tear rifts through the realms themselves and augment the very reality surrounding it, when given enough blood, of course. Once per battle, if you slay a model, the combat following a successful charge, you may immediately spend a command point to shatter King Crimson's lance. If you do, Van Helsing's a friendly Kastalei Dynasty vampire unit.
Ooh.
So
I like it.
That was a King Crimson joke. Metal for all my metalheads out there. But basically the idea is like you put this on like a white king, whatever, like a vampire lord on zombie dragon. They hit something with the lance. If they kill something, you say I'm breaking the lance, spend a command point, and then that unit of blood knights or that second vampire dragon can activate. or gets double
That's
activations
sick.
like Van Hels. A little bit of decision making in that
That's
like
sick.
you want your Blood Knights to already have attacked,
Mhm.
and then you're gonna
And have gotten that charge. You want the other zombie dragon to already have gotten that. Yeah.
yeah. So like you're
Yeah,
like
that's sick.
when it's overkill, it's way overkill. Like so, there's still some decision making on your part. But this was the one where I was the most. What do I really want to be able to do in this army? Cast Van Hels on vampires. Like literally,
Yeah.
the one thing I want to do the most in the entire army is Van Hels my vampires.
Make your cool dudes even cooler.
Yeah. So, and then also make a King Crimson joke.
Well, yeah.
So we got Avengorii.
All right. This is for all the bigs. This is the big army. This is the big faction. We have the Preserved Terrorgeist Fang. This pristine fang, ripped from the maw of the first Terrorgeist, serves to remind the enemies of the Soulblight that death is rarely the end. Once per battle, at the start of your hero phase, you may return one non-hero monster unit to the battle within 3 inches of the bearer. This unit may move, fight, and take damage as normal, but may not capture objectives. At the end of the combat phase, this model is slain.
I lied. This is your best artifact.
We're talking about sending your zombie dragon or terrorgeist into slap. It gets brought down, but it's back again. Full wound profile. It's here to fight one more time.
I fucking love. No, this is the shout moment. This is that's what you want for this
Crush
army.
the skull.
Yeah, you want to crush the skull, right? Like that's so good.
It's everything Avengorii wants.
Yes, it is. Especially since you're running kind of like the lighter units. They're not as power, right? Like yeah, yeah. This is
Frank.
yeah. I crushed the lance. You crushed the skull. Like yeah, this is it. I love that. Microphone drop. Yeah, we can quit now. I've got 4 artifacts left. Or no, I've got 3 artifacts left. Sorry. So Avengorii was the one where, I don't. They're all once per games, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was like their whole shtick, and they're all like kind of like meh once per games. So I redesigned 2 of them, and figuring that you would make one, and now we have given them 3 great artifacts instead of 3 garbage artifacts.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was a cheeky design thoughts number 1, as I knew you were going to design one, and now we have 3 perfect Avengorii artifacts. Okay. So the first one is Gorvar's Gory Harness. Now I designed this before I remembered the name of the bad artifact that was his collar. And I was going to make a collar, and then I was going to call it like like collar of like Aether Blood Control or something like that. And then I saw that they already had a collar, so I'm like, oh, well, what's bigger than a collar that also, well, we have a harness for our dogs that we walk our dogs with, so it's a harness instead of a collar, and blah. So I just like said King Me on their bad artifact.
Sure.
So before rolling the effects for Undeniable Impulse, this is going to be a Avengorii Lord only artifact.
Okay.
You may instead choose to take 1 mortal wound. If you do so, you get all the good stuff, but suffer none of the bad stuff. Pretty straightforward. Furthermore, you just get to reroll wounds of 1.
That's awesome.
You can just do that because it's a one. Do you know what Gorvar's collar normally does? Once per game, you can reroll wounds of 1.
Nothing.
That's what it normally does.
Yeah.
So, like as a sort of thumbing my nose at the artifact, you just do that. Who gives a shit?
I dig it. I like it.
So you could just reroll wounds of 1, and then like you could just choose to take damage to like be in control.
Yeah.
Right. You pull the leash or whatever. I wrote no flavor text from it because I would just copy Pasta Gorvar's flavor text and then just call it a harness instead. And then the next one I wrote was the Nightmare Veil, which is replacing the garbage like yelly artifact.
Yeah, the roar thing.
Yep. So the Nightmare Veil, this is supposed to be essentially the mother of nightmares, like a scrap of cloth from her clothing. I didn't get the right flavor text from this one, but this is what I envision this as. And like they took it as this like saintly garment and like started wearing it around like a veil. Uh, Nods to Lady Olander, other best death waifu. Once per battle, pick a model within 6 inches of the user that has a wounds characteristic of 9 or less, and roll a die. On a 3-up, that model is slain outright.
I like it.
If that model has 10 wounds or more, slay it on a 5-up instead.
Awesome.
If you roll a 1, the nightmare backfires. The bearer is -1 to hit, wound, and save the rest of the game.
Oh no. Laukavai's bathwater. It backfired.
So, like, here's the thing. They've started writing into War Scrolls that they don't want you to slay outright. This model cannot be slain outright. So I don't feel bad about killing big stuff on a once per game artifact. It's a 3-up and a 5-up because I want it to be better than good, or better than bad. Like I want it to be legit. I would compromise to a 4-up and a 6-up if I must. A coin flip and a 6-up. But I would rather it be a 3-up and a 5-up. I think that's
I think it's fair.
I think it's fair that way. It's an artifact. It should be good. It's a rando. Yeah, Laukavai's bathwater. I'll take a gallon, please. Yes. We're going to rename this. Here, I'm going to put it in a parenthetical right now.
Laukavai's bathwater.
There it is.
I love it.
So, I got to go top off on wine. This is usually where I like leave someone to vamp, is what it's called, by the way, appropriately. But I figure you've got some sort of self-promotion that we could easily segue in here before I reveal my bonus artifact.
I do.
So, vamp for a bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I will be starting up my own Twitch again relatively soon. Planning on doing bat reps with people from the Discord, the Heywo Discord. If you don't watch Heywo, do that. But I think all of you do already. You can find me at. Let me grab. I've shoved all of my mouse and stuff out of my way in excitement. But we're going to be doing battle reps. I'm going to be using some of my art theory to teach people how to paint. My Twitch is twitch.tv/itsmejoops. We're going to be hopefully doing like a color theory as it applies to model painting series. Additionally, I don't have much to vamp on. I kind of just want to hang out and tell you guys good stuff that I've been into recently. Go read good books. I have some suggestions. If you like comics, do yourself a favor and go read Headlopper. This comic fucking slaps. And Andrew McLean is a brilliant artist and did a lot of really hard work on it, and it's just a lot of fun. If you like Age of Sigmar and kind of like the super super turned up to 11 craziness for Zeta type stuff, you'll really dig it. It's the best way I can describe it is it's like Adventure Time meets Conan the Barbarian. It is heavy. It is Headlopper. There are 4 compendiums, not compendiums, 4 books out now. It's super good. For any big readers, I just finished Exhalation by Ted Chiang. It's beautiful. If you are even tangentially a science fiction fan or a fan of good writing, go read it. It's incredible. Being a writer myself, I really like it when you can take a genre that often gets overloaded with mediocrity and have someone really excel. It's fantastic. And If you haven't read it already, do yourself a favor, go read it. You have no excuse not to.
What book did you just talk? I'm sorry.
I
My
was talking
cheat code is
about
usually I listen to the Twitch thing.
I was talking about Exhalation by Ted Chiang.
Do
I
I
also
do I know
pro
him? Is this related to some news I know about you?
I don't think so.
That's not self-promotion. You were supposed to self-promote your own book.
Well, we're not there yet.
We're not there yet. All right. All
We're
right.
not. We are early manuscript acceptance.
Hey,
Um,
congratulations first and foremost. That's better
I
than the
appreciate that.
manuscript I got accepted. So like awesome first and foremost. I'm like I've known you a very small amount of time, but like I already feel like we're kind of like we're kindreds. We got
Yeah.
similar
Right.
energy. So I'm a big fan of you. Like we stand Joops around these parts, everybody. And when you were talking about art and stuff earlier on in the show, I'm like, you got to come back on just so we can talk about art. We can just nerd out about like
Yeah.
art and like
Yeah.
some parallels between like like AOS, but then also indulge in the rabbit
Mhm.
holes, which we're not allowed to do in the Great Enhancening because I got to be on task. Otherwise, like SJ Arcade gets mad at me.
Well, I hate to make everybody wait longer, but I really have to pee.
No, it's fine. No, it's
I'll
cool.
be
I'm going to
right
talk to
back.
Chat Gang. No, I'm going to talk to Chat Gang for a little bit. Um, Joops has good energy. Yeah, he is one of my favorite people I've met in the last, like, no joke, last few months, last year even. Yeah, I know time is meaningless. It's we've already covered this last time. Top caliber dude, one of the best I've met. Um, yeah. So he shared his Twitch link up in there. What's a Haywo? Nobody knows. Um, Flat King is sweatier. No, like that's the thing. Most people who know who I am know who Haywo is. They basically discovered me via Haywo. And if you didn't discover me via Haywo, I've promoted him so much, you know him now and probably watch him more often because he's streams more and stuff and makes better content. I got the funny. So here's the thing. They say don't judge a book by its cover. That is wrong. Uh, Lots of effort goes into book covers. I understand what people are trying to say when they say that out loud. And it's like yeah, don't you never know what war is going on inside somebody's head when you meet people like you don't know. Yeah, based. But books specifically, tons and tons more effort goes into like the book cover and trying to like evoke something and like and sell you on it to get you to know what you're about to get yourself into and so on and so forth than I think people realize. So like book covers actually aren't a terrible indicator. Like a comic book cover, for instance. Comic book covers are an art form almost unto themselves, designed to like get you in a mood to read that thing. You know, there's something in writing called bracketing. That's where essentially like a concept you lead with is a concept you end with. You can do it at like in at various points in your story. Supernatural, the first 4 seasons actually has great bracketing. Um, like book covers essentially are like a bracket in and of themselves of a story. So do not harsh on book covers and people who buy books based on book covers. A lot of effort goes into selling you based on the book cover, and the artists who tend to make book covers are very good at their job.
I do have one more recommendation before
Boom.
we get into
No,
it.
no, keep going. No,
Um,
no. See, it's like you never left because I just transitioned into like talking about book covers and stuff. The same topic.
so there was a book
Professional.
series when I was kind of browsing around. So working in the field that I do, I listen to a lot of audiobooks because I spend a lot of time by myself. Um, and I've
I mean,
always
same.
been kind of a big like I like the good parts of steampunk. It's less the rote like everything is steam powered that's exciting to me. It's more the Victorian ideals mixed with technology and I find that a lot of that genre is like goofy and fun.
Well, you're
It's
looking at like an Enlightenment era, right? Like this is the
right,
like Enlightenment is if you take
turned up.
Enlightenment on its like track it was supposed to go before capitalism ruined it all. Like there's some good vibes there.
So
Go ahead.
the author, I wouldn't even consider it strictly steampunk, but I found this book series and I read more about the author, and his first book was self-published, which like as a writer, like
Based.
I get like the grind. I do. And it did so well that he got a book deal. It's the Tower of Babel series by Josiah Bancroft. Phenomenal read. It's a fucking blast. The characters are lovable, and I want to live in that world for a couple days, even though parts of it are dark and terrible. I want to meet these characters, and they've for a book that I went in, or a series of 4 books. The fourth just came out the first week in November. For a series that I went into, like, oh, this will be a fun romp I can listen to while working. Legitimately resonated with me and was one of those things that wasn't necessarily the most literary thing I've ever read, but really spoke to me in a way that like I needed in that time.
Mm.
So if you haven't, do yourself a favor, get it on Audible. The That's how I took it in the first time. The narrator is fantastic, and it's fun, and it's full of good people trying to do good shit in a
Oh,
world that's like fucked up. And there's a lot of good out. I won't spoil it. Just go enjoy it. It's so good.
reset that one more time for me. What's it called?
It is the Books of Babel series by Josiah Bancroft.
You're gonna need to give me a list of all these,
Yeah,
because yeah, we'll put that in the down there part. People can check
yeah,
it out.
absolutely.
Yeah, no, awesome.
So not to sidetrack too much, but
No, I'm
I
gonna sidetrack further. We're about to be done in less than 2 hours. I got to sidetrack. I'm contractually obligated to sidetrack at this point for Rantcast. Under 2 hours, disgusting. At 2 hours, perfect. Um, so first off, cover art. Look at this cover art. Speaking of the best book made in Warhammer so far, this is gorgeous. If I walked into a store that sold me just art, I will have bought this, like walking out with a print of this. Of course, this would sell me a fucking book. Are you kidding me? Like the judging the book by the cover thing. Don't judge a book by the cover when it comes to people. Do judge a book by the cover when it comes to books, because like there's a lot of art that goes into that shit.
and it means the author has good taste.
Yep, because they got to approve it.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing I'm going to say is like you touched on like a couple topics there in your like steampunk is a genre, like punk as an aesthetic versus punk as a philosophy is something that I yell loudly about on the internet pretty constantly. And steampunk is one of those things that has aesthetically taken over, and the
Sure.
philosophy of it has like totally fallen by the wayside. And that's where already what you're like preaching to me, like sounds radical,
Yeah.
like rad as hell. Like first off, like the notion of hope punk
Yeah.
coming back right now, because we got all the Gen X like dystopian like things are fucked. We get it. We currently live in the dystopia. It's time to
Yeah.
change gears. So like I vibe with that because I've needed like Kupo and the Age of the Wonder Beast. Like or
Yeah.
Kipo, sorry, Kipo and the Age of the Wonder Beast. I've needed like hope. I've needed Undertale. I've needed things. I've needed a new hope, you might say. Like
And
I
it's
yeah, go ahead.
it's dark. There's some there's some really like unsettling situations, but it the characters feel real enough to where you can say, and it's not even self or insert. You can say, I could see the chips being down in my neighbor doing this.
Yeah,
I could see my best friend
yeah.
going through this and coming out not bitter but strong. And
I
it's got great strong female leads in it, which we stand that
Yeah,
in this household.
we stand. Chat gang stands that. Yeah, like the more diverse, the more inclusive, the better. IMO. You can get at me on Twitter. I will at mr_meph. Mr. Meth, get at me. Like, tell me diversity is wrong. You're wrong. No, like it's no. I have lived a dark life. You know, like I have a violent upbringing. Like, you know, I've got the scars to prove it, and you know, all kinds of stuff. And I don't have I don't need extra darkness. That being said, I think it's the people who go through the darkness in that can make it out that most appreciate the light. Some people go through the darkness and get trapped. And I think there's a lot of that going on right now. Is part of the reason I like more hopeful stories. Age of Sigmar to me is a story of hope. That's why I like this setting a great deal. Like I actively reject the Sigmar stories where Stormcast Eternals become full on Space Marines and they kill all the regular people to kill a couple demons too.
Yeah.
Like I actively reject those stories. I don't mind shades of gray in my stories. I don't need a black and white good guys versus bad guys. In fact, I don't like that at all.
Right.
Age of Sigmar doesn't do that either, by the way. But like I actively reject like the Sigmar like chapter that like or host that like kills a bunch of innocent people. Like
Sure.
the ones that have lost their soul too much doing that and telling me a compelling story about what it means to be a hero and constantly chipping away at yourself to save people. Love that.
Yeah.
Like that's what makes Stormcast super compelling heroes. I like them as heroes. They're fucking heroes to me. In a world that's kind of grim, dark, and on the brink, and like everything's about to be snuffed out because chaos is still winning.
Yeah.
Like, so like I'll get to that in a second, Dinma. Yeah, give us more like tough ladies, all the tomboys, like all the monster girls, like being strong and female and winning, like all of it, all the time. Yeah. So I don't know. I was just saying, like for me, Sigmar is a story of hope. That's also why I like horror a lot, which is why I like the particular brand of horror I like, which is essentially the compassionate horror and even like slasher film like featured women as protagonists a lot more than even though there was a lot of like exploitation and like violence towards women and like the icky stuff, the bad stuff we don't like.
Right.
It was also like you have these like feminist icons coming out of like the horror genres essentially saying like it's because they were the only thing giving us parts where the woman was active in the role or active in the plot or like did something, or it was the only thing where we weren't just there to like be a love interest for a guy. We actually got to do stuff. And so you have like all these feminist icons coming out of like horror, even though again we had the icky stuff too. Like I don't know. So
shout out to Switchblade Sisters. If you like genre films and you like strong women, go listen to it. It's a great podcast.
I think I talked over you a little bit. What was that?
If you like genre films and you like strong women and you like female writers, go listen to Switchblade Sisters. It's a great podcast hosted by and featuring women in that world.
Perfect. All right, I've officially padded for time. Wizardry showing up. Tier 1 sub for 48 years, saying
48 years.
Merry Christmas. I think that is precisely as long as I have had the affiliate status, which is like an embarrassingly long amount of time to not be partner or anything. Anyway, is 50 Shades of Grey too many shades of gray for AOS lore? No, it's fine. I could even tell you some positive things about the 50 Shades of Grey movie, but not the book. So, but Dan Olson did that better. So my final item. This is a bonus item. I'm gonna back this truck up and into the Great Enhancening. I'm glad we got the little soapbox moment there for everybody. Rantcast is supposed to be the best show about Age of Sigmar that isn't about Age of Sigmar, so we had to get a lot of not AOS in there. Sorry, SJ, I let you down, buddy. Bonus items: Vestments of the Rat Prince. This stylish cane and massive fur cloak are said to hold some small essence of the Rat Prince's unique curse. It's a pimp cane, and a all right.
Those who have seen me talk in early on in Hey Wo's Discord know that I love Kritza.
All right. So constraint. Your army must include Kritza. I deleted it in the copy paste, but it says it above it. It says your army must include Kritza. So your army must include Kritza to use this artifact. It is not sub-allegiance locked. Okay.
Okay.
But it is locked to you must include Kritza. All right. Once per game, 5+ get back up per Kritza's thing. You rise back up at D3 wound. So his same like positioning constraints. It's just he does the you do the Kritza thing, but you come back at 1d3 wounds. Kritza takes 1d3 mortals. So yes, this can kill Kritza and reset Kritza back up too.
That's awesome. It's combo. I love it.
That's so like I was about to like I'm like you're gonna come back up at D3 wounds. I'm like, oh yeah, but then Kritza dies at like Kritza takes D3, and like yes, it can kill Kritza as well, so Kritza can like get back up as well.
Come back, and I love it.
Yeah, so that is by design. I want everyone to know that. Additionally, or in addition to, or besides that, once per game, you may spend a command point in your hero phase to summon 1d3 units of rat swarms within 3 inches, split between any combination of this unit and Kritza.
That's cool. It gives you a reason to buy rat swarms.
I looked at Games Workshop's website before I designed this item to make sure you can still buy rat swarms.
I love it. It's perfect. It's my son now. I love it.
Like, so
we love this artifact.
Note that we get 2 once per games, or because we have it's Vestments. We got the pimp cane and the pimp cloak. Sorry.
It's great.
And then you can summon like rat swarm models are fine. I assume most people are going to like kit bash or do their own thing, right?
Sure.
And you'd have to like go into a place where like you're telling people to buy a different book in the Age of Sigmar and or go look at the website for the War Scroll. You know, like you're going into a space like that. But Games Workshop wants money, so like I don't think they'd be mad that I'm telling you to. I'm doing the comic book thing where like I tell you to go read this issue of the Avengers now.
Right.
So,
I love it. I love it so much. I'm lost in thought because I'm thinking about my buddy who hates Kritza because he's so annoying. He's not going to Scarbrand his way up the table and delete all your dudes, but he can do some damage.
He's an extra Jenny.
Back,
he's an extra Jenny.
Extra Jenny. And my buddy just hates him. He hates his guts, and I love that about it.
Upon reading this, I recognized that I brought back the Ring of Immortality. Mm-hmm. I think what we need to do is we need to this get back up instead of having Kritza's get back up rule, because I was just it was late at night and I was shortcutting by saying copy this text. What it should be is you should come back within like 18 inches of Kritza or wholly within 12 of Kritza or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So like to be worse than the Ring of the Ring of Immortality in some way, because that one allows you to set back up anywhere, and so like you have to come back in range of Kritza. They can kill Kritza and then he won't get back up necessarily. Like
right.
So I
like that.
So I think I would edit this live and say everything I just said, but the unit that gets back up like must come back or the model that gets back up must come back by Kritza.
Okay.
So wholly within 18. Yeah, exactly, Penny, dude. Wholly within 18 of Kritza, more than 9 from enemy. Yeah, so like instead of Kritza's like can be anywhere kind of thing. I think it's like literally anywhere on the table. Like Vestments of the Rat Prince, they have to come back within Kritza. The notion isn't that they're necessarily immortal. It's that like Kritza's ratly power energy, special Soulblight curse as outlined
Right.
by the narrative in the game of Age of Sigmar and the fluff and stuff, is that yeah.
I
Yes.
love it.
Yes, Kritza is basically Red Skellington, and that's why Kritza is the best.
I love it. I mean, you didn't even have to read the artifact. You said Kritza, or you said Rat Prince, and I was immediately like, all right, I'm sold. I don't care what it is, I want it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
has Kritza's cane, it has his dope cape.
Mm-hmm.
He looks awesome.
Oh,
It
like
he's got so much attitude.
he's so beautiful. Like when I saw that sculpt, and like all the new vampire sculpts like have this going on for them. Where like I look at them and they're like, those are fucking vampires.
Yeah.
They have that like that austere aura, that presence, you know, that. But then they've got that like vicious sort of like monster thing lurking under the surface, right? And then Laukavai is the inversion of that, which makes it also way cooler. But like the vampires, and for me, Soulblight Gravelords is them hitting their stride with having their own identity with their vampires.
Yeah, agreed.
Everything else, like we had an entire generation of people telling us there's a vampire in this, but my vampire is different because it sparkles in the sun. Like,
Sure.
and by the way, like I will actually stand Twilight. I think the garbage.
I've never seen it.
I think the writing is like blah, but I think people hate it way more because it's girl fiction than it deserves. Like there's some girl agency stuff that I don't care for, but like when it gets right down to it, like I like a lot of bad media for boys.
Sure.
And nobody ever makes fun of it.
Well, you're talking to somebody who grew up in junior high, high school reading Anne Rice, which
romance novels basically.
Which changed me.
Dude, upon a second read through like of Anne Rice recently, because she Barnes and Noble, I work for them. I found out Anne Rice was going to like release some new books for like the first time in like 15, 16 years or something like that, and like I got to go back and read. And like I utterly missed the undertones of the book the first time. Like when I was and I'm like, and I went back and I read that. I'm like this is the Mummy for like a whole generation of we'll just call it curiosity fuel, so I'm not too political and I don't like scrub away people's like identities and stuff like that. And I'm like, yo, if you reread this as a love story between like Louis and Lestat, it's way better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Lestat's the abusive boyfriend.
Yep.
Yeah. And then there's also the undercurrent of Louis and the dude he's talking to.
Yeah.
Seeing as I play both sides of the fence, that's also why I like vampires, because so do they.
Yeah, right on. Like they've ascended beyond sexuality to be omnisexuals. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fun. Vampires are fun and compelling, and they're the parts of us that we want to be, but also the parts of us that we don't want to be.
Yeah, there's that duality. Yeah. No, and like I said, like for me, like this is Soulblight Gravelords is vampires hitting their stride for what Games Workshop can do. This is I always call it the AOSification or the KO effect, where we finally got to see what does this look like in this world. Like, I also want werewolves for really real in this world, by the way.
Yeah, I do too.
Like, I love Vyrkos and where they've gone with that, and like werewolves and vampires in pop culture. Like, you have mythology and you have myth, and at some point, myth jumps into pop culture.
Yeah,
and that's happened with vampires and werewolves. And in terms of pop culture, werewolf and vampire are like inextricably linked.
Right.
And so, give me my werewolves now too. I like
give me a unit of 3 that are just like a rip and tear unit like Radikar. Just give me a unit that does Radikar's shit without the command abilities.
More Bloodborne. Yes, I want more Bloodborne in.
Yes.
But we got like a good amount of like. I know there's the Bloodborne things, that unit. That should have just been like a unit of 5, and we should have got like a full range of them released. But.
Well, I want to go more Bloodborne because aesthetically it's incredible. Give me fancy vampires with dope outfits.
Yeah. You will get your Slimer Werewolves, and you will like them.
It's just it's such a great book, and it's so fun, and like I do genuinely love it. Just as like every part of me loves it. The writer, the artist, the nerd.
Yeah.
I just love. It's just such a good book, and I want people to play it because it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't have that kind of like. I feel like in some nerd communities, you want to snatch stuff away. Like, this is my precious thing.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone else to experience it because it's my. I want everyone to play this book. I want everybody to like at least like try it because it's so fun.
I think for me that's something that like I preach, I hold dear in AOS is that like this is that I don't want them to nerf armies too much. I want them to bring other armies up.
Yeah.
Like there are armies, yeah, there's stuff that deserves to be nerfed, but like as a rule, I want to share the game and share the passion and like bring people up. Like this is why like I recognize that I don't like aesthetically jive with certain armies, but when I meet somebody who like fucking loves that thing, I just want to hear why and how, and like I want that like osmosis. I want that like vicarious like love of the thing. I think this game is better when you're passionate not just for like your army, but like for other people's armies. But then also like when you're like a satirist or a propagandist for your army, we're like, no, like look, this is why my army is the best, and this is why you should come play it. Like if you start to think of the game in terms of like why others should come play your army, and you think of it from that propaganda standpoint, I think you start to get a healthier view of the game. I'm not talking about like being toxically positive or anything like that.
Sure.
But like that place of genuine passion where you're like, I love this thing. This is what I love about this. I want everyone to feel this way.
Right.
That.
Because it feels so good.
It feels great.
It feels so good.
It feels so good.
I know I've been talking about Soulblight Gravelords like we both have for a couple hours now. I have some news.
Ooh, all right.
I will be starting a second army soon.
Uh-oh.
Don't know exactly what yet, but I think I liked what we talked about with Hope. I think it's going to be Order something. And I know how I get into things like I do with Soulblight, so I'm sure people who talk to me frequently will.
It's KO, isn't it? You're about
to not hear me shut up about it. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Not to sidetrack too much, but
no,
it's coming.
No, so I mean, Army 2 Electric Boogaloo. Yeah, I can't do the Boogaloo jokes anymore. It's like I don't.
They ruined it.
I don't scold folks for shit like that, and I don't like. That's where the actually guy is the worst. Is the semantical shit. Like this is, like but like, way to ruin the Boogaloo joke with your hate. You hate fuckers. Also, you can get at me, by the way, at MR_MEPH if you a hater. And you want to know why you should get out, because haters should get out.
Nazis are bad.
That shouldn't
Twitter,
be.
So
that shouldn't be.
Stew in it.
That shouldn't be controversial. Apparently, Games Workshop telling people Nazis are bad, and then you just have the people like spontaneously grow glasses that were like underlit, like actually like table flip. So mad.
So here's the thing. I love
flaming bees are amazing. Yes,
I love being on to talk because I'm not on Twitter. They have no way to argue with me.
This machine kills fascists, rolls dice. Yeah, right on. Shout outs to Woody Guthrie and Tom Morello.
They no, I legitimately like I just love this book, and I'm excited because I picked up this book. Or, rather, I picked up Death in a time when I didn't know shit about the game. I just picked, honestly, I picked off the cover. I went and looked through the covers of the books. They didn't even have all of them in stock at the GW store I was in. But I was a kid in the candy store. I had my money. I knew I wanted to play with my friends. So I went in and I was like, this looks cool. I don't know who this Nagash guy is, but he has a cool hat. So that's the book that I bought.
Skelepope, yeah.
And I want to find
once again the book sold you. Yeah. The cover, right?
I want to find that other book now that I know. Like, now that I know more about the game,
I
I'm excited to army shop
is there
because I know.
go on.
I know.
Is there a full art of these? Because I needs it. Like I know it's on a,
There are art
it's
prints.
it's useless, but I need a full art of that. Respect the Pope hat. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Chat gang. The show within the show is popping off. You're talking about how much you love your army. So normally we go into like close out, like
Yeah.
thing. You get the final soapbox. You get to be radical, talk about something you love, like your passion, so on and so forth. Any tangent you miss, something that came up in your mind, you're like, I want to go down that rabbit hole a little bit. And the closeout doesn't mean like immediately we stop. We can
Sure.
we're at 2 hours and 10 minutes, which is like a record for my show low. Like quite frankly, so you can talk for a while here, but I gotta talk about this Nazis thing here. Um, I I I, I gotta talk about this Nazis thing here. It has never started any good conversation in the history of the world, by the way. Ever. Like I immediately regret those words that came out my mouth. But like seriously, Nazis, fuck off. Now I am not possessed by hatred for you, but I know your end game is hate. Your entire platform, and this is the thing that pisses me off about people who defend Nazis under all their various bad faith actor fucking rhetoric. They always gloss over the fact that the Nazi position is genocide. It is the ultimate violence and a literal crime against humanity is their literal fucking platform. Okay? Tolerating them leads to net more violence against the entirety of our species. So, like, I don't understand the, like, yo, like, let's just hear them out shit. Let's just hear out genocide? Like, and I am not saying, like, always punch Nazis in the face. I guess there's people out there that can bring Nazis back from the brink, but I am saying always punch them in the mind. Every fucking Nazi you ever see forever, they are wrong. You have all of human history on your side. Like, do not give them ground. They deserve none in an argument. Always, always take them to task. Always call them for what they are. And always mock them because they deserve it for being fractally wrong. They are wrong at every level of their existence. You don't end up on Nazis equal good as a position without being wrong everywhere in what you believe. Sorry,
No, you're all right.
I blacked out. What happened? Where am I? I was talking about vampires, and I just yeah, dump cement milkshakes on them too. By the way, oops.
Oops.
Final soapbox.
It's hard for me to follow that up because I don't know if any of my messages are that strong.
No, go lighthearted then. Go the art, music,
Lighthearted.
funny anecdote, a proper soapbox, whatever.
Trying to think of anything lighthearted that I've come across recently. It's kind of hard these days. Play more games of Age of Sigmar. Buy Tabletop Simulator. This is me. This is propaganda. I am Max Headroom right now for all the olds in chat. Buy Age of Sigmar. Play games with your friends.
By Tabletop
Find
Simulator,
people in
yeah.
Discord, whether it's Mephs, Haywoes, any Discord. Play games. Have fun. Be nice to each other.
Yeah.
When somebody posts their painted minis and doesn't ask for criticism, say something nice. Because honestly, sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes you're not looking for a critique. Sometimes you're looking for people to confirm that you're here.
Validation.
Be cool.
Yeah.
Be cool to each other. Like this is me. This is me. I'm bleeding heart soapbox. Be nice to each other because honestly, that's how we avoid a lot of these issues.
Real talk.
is just be kind. And like, this is a game, but like, the community is important, and it's on us to do the work. We can't expect a company to teach us to be kind to each other.
Damn right.
We're here to roll dice and to laugh and to have fun and like make stupid jokes. Like, paint your minis, show them to people, play games in person if you can safely, online if you can't, and just enjoy each other. Like, it, the world is dark, and the game and the setting is dark, but we don't have to be.
Right. I think, piggybacking off of that, I think we create dark worlds and we can see the darkness because by contrast, we know there's better. You can't think of a worst case scenario or make a bad thing without understanding what is good and undermining it, right? So like the bad exists in our fiction and out there because we can dream and think of a better case scenario. And I encourage people to think of the better case scenario. Like all like it don't underrate ideas and being creative and doing cool shit or thinking about cool shit. Like your fucking like Star Trek watch that you got that you talked to was because some nerd thought about some cool shit, and then somebody went, "I'm gonna make that happen." And this is where like a nod towards hope punk. I'm not blaming y'all Gen X because I get it, but y'all thought up all the dystopian bad stuff constantly, and I'm ready to like to throw that. I want to spread some hopium, get some hopium in you, but like beyond the esoterica, beyond the like influencing the world's thoughts and futures by like having more hope and like writing up cool shit and being more hopeful and stuff like that. On a direct sense, AOS allows you to interface and interact with people directly and be radical and be awesome to each other directly and brighten people's days directly. So, do that, man. This has been awesome.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun.
How can people hang out with you? How can they get at you? How can they consume your content?
They can consume my content at Twitch TV/It's Me Joops. They can message me on Discord. They can. That's really it. I'm not on social media.
Good.
I don't I don't engage in Twitter. I'm on Instagram because I like looking at people's outfits and painted models and bands that I like. Um, but I'm not on social media. If you're on Discord, you can get a hold of me. I have my DMs open for people I'm in shared servers with, so I'm sure most of the people I share at least one server with in chat.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't even have to be Games Workshop or AOS stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just down to chat. Like, I'm just a regular dude.
Yeah, right on. Right on. And I'm Mephisto. Your chat gang, the show within the show. The reason I do this thing. Remember to drink your milk, pay your taxes, be excellent to each other, always. Because if you're not excellent to each other, we can't party on. So be excellent so that we may party on, everybody. And we'll catch you next time. This has been the Great Enhancening, Part 2. Soulblight Gravelords. We got 22-ish more of these coming. Good night, everybody. We'll catch you next time. Good night, Joops.
Night, man.